Well, I think we've done extensive conversations now in terms of describing what icons are and also talking about the process as well. And of course, that's a process of creating icons. But I think we can get into the next segment, which is probably some of my favorite things to do is to really look at icons and really reflect on them. And so I think uh, if everyone's ready, we would love to see if maybe we can all look at some icons and kind of see what each of our perspectives are.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes.
I think we have a little bit of a list of icons that we're going to go through. And so, yeah, we'll start off with the first one. Joshua, do you want to give us an introduction
Of
onto
course.
this one as well? Yeah.
Yeah. So the first icon that I brought up is one of my favorites, right? It's the Pantokrator, right? It's the all God, like God's best icon in my opinion, right? A Christ's best icon. It shows his true divine nature, right? Both essence, as you guys will say soon. But it's also the teacher icon, right? It teaches us about who he is, his natures, and how he honestly loves us and he sees us in the same way, right? And Pantokrator in Greek means ruler of all, right? So he is the ruler of all mankind, and he just wants the best for us. So I would love. This is what I was been waiting for this to see what you guys
Mm,
can point out, pick out, and
yeah.
using maybe some of the things I told you guys before, right? Using those facial
Yep.
features, things that he's holding, just to be able to give me some details. I have some written down, so I'm ready to. I'm ready. I'm ready.
All right, dude. You're interviewing us at this point. All right,
Yeah.
bro. This is perfect. I love this. Oh, this is so beautiful. Of course, let's start with the frown, right? This, right? The
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah.
I have to
Gosh.
confess, I kind of cheated. I did some research
Cheater,
on this
cheater.
already.
Nice.
I mean, this is the most famous icon of
Yeah,
Christ, right? The first icon that people do have in their households or in their icon corners is the Pantokrator, the Almighty Creator, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And
So it
I
makes
made
sense.
this joke already, but kind of looks like Jesus giving us the rock eyebrows. I was like, you smell what the rock is cooking.
All
So
right.
so when I first so when I first saw it, I was like, huh, like that is odd, right? That's the first thing that caught my eye. Like, why is there this duality there, right? And
Hmm.
Joshua, you kind of touched on this, that human aspect of it, and then there's this divine judge, the King of Kings that is coming down to judge, right? So that there's that split that we can see in that
Yeah.
two sides. On the left, you see that peaceful, loving Jesus, right? And on the other side, you see on the right, you see this Christ that is very serious,
Hmm.
that has the book of judgment that will come down, right? So that's something that I noticed. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Also, one other thing. The let's go down a little bit from the face a little bit. But you see
Hmm.
the both sides, right? The hand, the sign where the peaceful side, right? The one that is loving, merciful, right? That it's a blessing that when Achins give us, right? In the Orthodox tradition, you guys also do the same thing. I think the Achins do this in our part, they represent the Trinity, but it's very similar, I would say, right? Um, you see, this is of course I've also cheated on this too because I've learned
Yeah.
the Panda Creator a while ago, but when I learned this, I was like, what? There's so much symbolism in this.
Hmm.
The hand signal, there's the Christ's name, right? The Christogram, right?
Yeah.
The ICXC, like of course it's Greek, it's a little different, right? The iota, the lunate sigma, which is then the chi and the lunate sigma again, right? Which
Hmm.
represents the name of Christ, Jesus Christ, right? So
Yeah.
it's in one like one hand,
One
right?
hand.
It's
Yeah.
all in one hand, which is so crazy because usually you have the name of IC or
Like
like
next
the
to
sigma,
the
whatever I
icon.
said, yeah, on the image on the icon itself, but here it's different,
Yeah.
right? You have it all in his
Huge
hand.
detail.
It's so amazing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Awesome.
think
Yeah, that
I
was a
think
great
these
one.
guys, yeah, like really touched on a lot of it. I think what I like really because I didn't want to cheat on this one, I'll be honest. I wanted to
Thank
come
you.
into this
No, I'm
blind,
just kidding.
right?
All right, buddy.
I think for me, what I really noticed from this one was, especially on like we talk about the left side and the right side, right? The exaggeration of features, right? We've talked about this a little bit earlier, right? What features are we noticing and how are they portrayed in, right? And so like we talked about like the eye and the frown, right? And we talked about like just hand placement, like Book of Judgment, right? Peace sign, but then also just like the size of the head, the skull hair, right? On one
Mm,
side as well, right? There is exaggeration that is also of
yeah.
importance to actually note as well. And so it's not just maybe specific things, but also features, sizing, shapes we've talked about as well. So those are also, I'm hoping, things that our viewers are also noting as well as we're going through these.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So
Two more things.
okay.
Sorry,
Hmm.
if you want to go. Oh, go
Oh
ahead.
no,
Two more.
go ahead. You go.
No
I love this.
worries. No, no. We're very passionate about it. That's why.
Yeah.
Um, I learned this recently. The underneath the cloak, right?
Yeah.
You see a golden, a stall, like a stole or something, right?
Hmm.
That represents his divinity, right? Like his like holiness, right?
Yeah.
Because yeah, his judge being, like he's cloaked in his divinity, right? Which sits underneath what he's wearing on top, right? So that's very, very interesting to
And
me.
what my I believe the top thing is called hymation or hymation, I believe, and that's the humanity. I think, from
Hmm.
my research, I believe that's what I understood. But a couple of things that I wanted to point out that we already talked about. The gold, right? We see a gold halo again, shows the
Hmm.
divinity of Christ, right? You see this closed mouth of contemplation, of silence. We see relatively like big forehead, wisdom, right? And there are different like depictions of Pantokrator, right? One of them
Yeah.
has long flowing hair, and it shows the passage of time. Uh,
Hmm.
right? So there's you don't notice these things right away.
Yeah.
Like the amount of detail that goes into this is just incredible. Just and also I wanted to say like we talked about John the Baptist, how he's depicted as often as frail or like bag like very like beaten up and like
Hmm.
in that way, right? Crucifix, right? Obviously Jesus has been beaten and he's crucified, right? He's suffering. But here what you see is a strong like there's no
Mm.
weakness here, right? It shows
Yeah.
that strength of God, like that strong divinity of Christ. If that makes sense, right? So
Hmm.
yeah, some things that I noticed.
And
Yeah.
and the
Awesome.
halo of Christ is the most unique halo in
Yeah.
all of icons because he does have the cross on it.
Mm.
Usually there's like also Greek symbols on that.
Yeah.
I think I am who I am, or
Hmm.
something represents that the
Alpha
divine name of
Omega.
God, right? Alpha and
Alpha.
Omega, right? So it's the most unique halo in all of icons. So
Yeah.
that's you could find Christ easily in an
Definitely.
icon because yeah, yeah,
Also, everything you guys said was great. Honestly, you guys hit all the points, right? Um, I guess like just going off that facial features, right? The eyes tell the story, right? Like you look into Christ's eyes, you look at both sides. One eye is so like warm, like you said,
yeah,
Kason. It's so inviting, right? While the other side, it's like more stern, right? It's showing that there's this dual nature that we must understand that Christ has. But remember, he's always a loving God, right? At the end of the
Mhm.
day, he's always going to love us. He sent his only son down. That is the true representation of an icon, right?
Right,
He was crucified on the cross for our sins. So
right.
great. And then one little fun fact, I guess, right? So
Mm.
it doesn't have to do with the icon specifically. It's just where it's usually depicted in the church. So in Eastern Orthodox churches, right, it's often seen at the top of the dome, right?
Oh,
It's
okay.
and
The
called
Hagia Sophia.
yeah,
Yeah, and the
all the
Hagia,
way
yeah, the
up.
dome. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
And it's usually seen as it's also said the apse of the church, right? And so
Mm.
this is reserved for the Pantocrator icon, just like you said earlier, how both sorry, how there are different versions of it, right? As you said,
Mm.
there's long hair, right? There's also one where it's like this, right? This is not
Yeah,
often seen depicted, but there's different artistic styles, I guess you can say, depending
right.
on who's the iconographer, who's painting it, whatever. And so this is at that top. Why? Because it is the representation of the whole church being his, right? So we are all
Mm.
under him, right? This is why it's also Pantocrator, literally translates to in Greek as the ruler of all, right? So we are all under his divine essence. We're all under his, uh, guidance, right? So
Mm.
seeing that light. So when you look up, right, you're looking up to the heavens, and that's
Yeah,
the first thing you see. Just very impactful and very,
yeah.
warming.
Oof,
Well,
gosh. Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm shocked. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to see the judgment side. Oh, no, not that side. I only want to see the loving side.
That's why
But
we'll go with Eric's version with the flowy hair.
oh, but yeah, judgment is because of his love, right?
Mhm.
We make our choice at the end of the day. We choose to be facing him or away from him, right?
Yeah,
So he's just doing that. He's just giving us what we want. It's
showing
all
us,
his
yeah,
love. Yeah.
and that's the whole thing, right? He's voluntarily showing us that there are two natures. I like, how would we feel if we obviously don't know how he's going to judge, right? That's just one mystery that we'll never understand because we can
Yeah,
never
that's true.
fully encapsulate what Christ, how he thinks, how God thinks, right? But
Right.
to
Oh,
be able to be shown that there's two sides is giving us a huge advantage in our life, right? Knowing that,
mm,
okay, like this is the way we must live, and that our Christ is loving us, but he will also see our doings, right? See our wrongs, see our rights, and there is a judgment portion to it. but it's all out of love, just like you said.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think we've spent a good amount of time like really talking about this and lots of great perspectives, lots of great thoughts. And I hope our listeners and our viewers have been able to really get a better understanding
Yeah.
of the Pantokrator. Yeah, I think it's a good time to move on to our second icon that we're going to